Federal government and organized labor reach agreement to return to negotiation table on new minimum wage.
All of them have come together with the federal government team. We have been negotiating here, and they have all agreed that we will continue to do this negotiation to arrive at a new minimum wage above 60,000 naira that the federal government had provided initially.
Vice President Shettima reaffirms federal government's commitment to prioritizing welfare of Nigerians.
Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation begins liquidation process of Heritage Bank after revocation of license by the CBN.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria, plus the new national minimum wage saga.
All right, just last Wednesday, Nigeria marked a significant milestone in the country's political journey. Of course, it's been 25 years of unbroken democracy, and we've been singing it all along. But it's the first of its kind since the Fourth Republic.
That's true, Claire. Since May 29, 1999, Nigeria has steadily walked the path of democratic governance, weathering storms and surmounting challenges.
All right, so from the early days of transition to civilian rule to the present day, Nigeria has made very significant strides in consolidating its democratic gains.
You know, Claire, we have seen power change hands peacefully, witnessed the growth of vibrant society and vibrant civil society, and watched our economy expand.
But people will say, despite all of what we have said, all the achievements we've made, Nigeria is still having to deal with issues of corruption, security matters, economic inequality, and of course, what they call politicization of the process.
Oh, political polarization, if you want to say, because that's our terrain these days. As part of activities to mark the 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria, this year, President Bola Tinubu was at the joint session of the National Assembly.
So the question we will ask is, Fisayo, if you recall, what was that significant thing that happened on that day? And I tell you, I don't want you to say, we all know it was the reversal to the old national anthem, of course, which is now the new national anthem, Nigeria, we hail thee. Now, it followed, of course, the passage of the National Anthem Bill 2024 and presidential assent to make it law. Now, so what lessons have we learned from our democratic journey so far, and what challenges must we overcome to deepen our democratic roots? But perhaps we should be asking, what hope does the future hold for millions of Nigerians, as we continue our democratic journey? That will be our first topic as we explore the past, the present, and future of Nigeria's democracy. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak. Thank you for joining me.
And we're not done, Claire, as we shall be discussing the new national minimum wage. Of course, that's the main thing now. So many discussions around that so far resulted in the organized labor embarking on indefinite strike, which started yesterday. I'm Fisayo Gunfui. Let me also welcome you to today's program. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Chukwudi Okole-Ugbaja will join us at some point during the program for the newspaper review. But that will be after the highlights of the news. Good morning, and here is the morning news. The meeting convened by the federal government and organized labor has reached the agreement to return to the negotiation table and continue discussions on the new national minimum wage. The agreement was reached at a meeting held in the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation with a view to finding an end to the strike action. The resolutions include that the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is committed to a national minimum wage that is higher than 60,000 naira, arising from the above. The tripartite committee is to meet every day for the next 1 week with a view to arriving at an agreeable national minimum wage. Now, Labour, in difference to the highest team of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria's commitment to the above, undertakes to convene a meeting of its organs immediately to consider this commitment, and no worker would be victimized as a result of the industrial action.
Understanding that the president has been reached and is committed to making sure that the new minimum wage negotiation is concluded.
All of them have come together with the federal government team. We have been negotiating here, and they have all agreed that we will continue to do this negotiation to arrive at a new minimum wage above 60,000 naira that the federal government had provided initially.
You could see that in the agreement, there's a commitment that they will do much more than, higher than the 60,000, using the exact words in the agreement.
The appropriate organs are the only people that can suspend the strike, not these people standing here. So when we take all these things to the organs, if they so decide, it will be suspended.
The nationwide strike called by the organized labor over delay in a new minimum wage commenced Monday with activities grinding to a halt in the nation's capital, Abuja.
You can move from gate 1 down to gate 8. All the gates are shut. So there's no entrance and nobody is allowed to enter inside to work. Maybe for those who sneaked in, maybe around 5-6 o'clock, we have entered there and we have sent everybody out. So presently, the compliance is 100%.
The labor and the government should dialogue. They should see between each others and see what can become resolutions.
Senior secondary school students sitting for their WAEC examinations in the FCT were not affected by the ongoing strike called by the NLC, as schools remained open for both the senior secondary school students, internal invigilators, external invigilators, and the supervisors who are participating in the examination exercise. NT News observed that even though there was substantial compliance with the strike, Labour has kept its promise to exclude schools and students sitting for this year's WAEC examination from the ongoing industrial action.
Despite the ongoing strike, our examinations are still taking place. It's not affecting us in any way.
Despite the strike, we are still commencing on the, I guess, we are still writing the examination.
The rehabilitation and expansion of roads in the Federal Capital Territory is to make commuting easier, open up businesses, and ensure safety of lives. President Bola Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, reaffirmed that the Renewed Hope agenda is committed to prioritizing the lives of Nigerians. This was at the inauguration of the Outer Southern Expressway to Ring Road 1, Abuja. The Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation (NDIC) says it has commenced the liquidation process of Heritage Bank with immediate effect. A statement by the Director Communication and Public Affairs of the NDIC, Bashir Nuhu, says depositors of the bank that have alternate accounts within the industry will be paid up to the insured amount of 5 million per depositor using their bank verification number (BVN) to locate their alternate account, while depositors with funds in excess of 5 million naira will be paid liquidation dividend upon realization of the bank's assets and recovery of debts owed to the bank. The NDIC wishes to assure the entire banking public of its commitment to the continued safety of depositors' funds in all licensed banks, urging depositors to continue their banking businesses without fear, as banks whose licenses have not been revoked remain safe and sound. Those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and I after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
Fellow Nigerians, it is a good thing to be Nigerian. Good news! The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is organizing the National Fabric Competition, the One Nigeria Unity Fabric Competition. The aim is to create a fabric design that would be indigenous to Nigeria, showcasing our culture and unity. This competition is looking out for creativity, concept, and the message of unity. Open to Nigerian youths, both male and female, between the ages of 15 and 25 years. And guess what? You can apply wherever you are in the world as long as you are Nigerian. The winner of this competition goes home with a cash prize of 25 million naira. Are you sure I will not apply for this competition? Submission of entries close on Sunday, 30th of June 2024. Submit your entries by sending pictures of your designs via email to unityfabric.ofl24@statehouse.gov.ng, making sure you capture all parts of your designs. Together, let us unite Nigeria!
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Something new is about to hit your imagination of TV. A brand new sundial with StarTime's inbuilt technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTime's antenna and satellite signal. StarTime Sundial TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTime's highest bouquet for free, automatic system update. More benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Sundial TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
All right, time to welcome you back to the program. Good morning, Nigeria. And of course, we have a newspaper review, and that's coming up presently.
Alright, this is the newspaper review segment. Of course, to do that, a man who wears a even wearing a spectacle is a spectacle. And that is a man whose name never grows old. Chukwudi Okule Ugbaja.
Yes, am I happy to see you? I remember you. Great man. You give us a good time. How are you doing? I should welcome him to the show. Just imagine the, braggadocio. He's coming in. I should welcome him. Claire, are you jealous? Goody oldie.
That's what strike does.
Yeah.
It brings out those who hide.
Please. No. It's not a good prayer to say distraction. I want you to continue, please. I hope management is listening to me.
Anyway, Chukwudi, good to have you with us. Let's quickly start the newspaper review, and I'm starting up with Vanguard. Quite a busy front page for the Vanguard, but as expected, today's story, of course, is on the organized labor strike, and it reads: Labour shots Nigeria as wage talks resume today, and quite a number of riders there. Soldiers by journalists from OSGF Sakume meet Labour. FG asks Labour to return to negotiations. Tinubu Akpabio Abbas meet in Asu Rock Army dismisses NLC's allegation on surrounding meeting venue. Blackout looms as workers shut down power sector. All workers stop fuel distribution. All ports nationwide. Banks, schools, airports shut. Flight grounded. Passengers stranded. FG Labour must return to negotiation table to avert mass suffering, starts LP Labour Party. Muslim pilgrims stranded as strike forces planes to return empty to Saudi Arabia. Now consider workers' plight. Take action to implement living wage. Khan tells FG. Quite a mouthful of riders there following the late story. Just to take you a little, of course, the picture story to my left, that should be to your right. Nigeria Labour Congress NLC chairperson in Lagos, Comrade Fumi Shisi, urging workers to leave the Lagos State Secretariat for strike. And that happened yesterday. And just above the nameplate, we have other trending stories. Why we revoked Heritage Bank's license, CBN. I think there's an interesting story. Depositors would want to find out all the details. That story is on page 19. And Nama MD wants reversal of 50% IGR deduction in interest of safety. Presidential Committee canvasses 1% revenue cost of collection. It's on page 9. And government reforms shouldn't push Nigerians into poverty. That's Ajaero, the NLC, of course, president. And leadership leads with a bold caption, FG begs as Labour grounds Nigeria over minimum wage. And that's the leadership. Of course, we have, in continuation of the commissioning of projects in the FCT, Mr. President is expected today to also commission more completed road within the Federal Capital Territory, this time the Northern Parkway to other Northern Expressway. And that's, of course, right there on the front page. But just before I bring in Fisayo, there is Mr. and Mrs. I haven't read it, but I just want to, Mr. and Mrs. is always giving us something to think about. You didn't shed a tear when my mother died. No, when her mother died. People were looking at you like a wicked person. And the man says, I cried when your father died. I cried when your uncle died. I cried when your grandmother and grandfather died. I've run out of tears. The harsh economy has taken its own toll on everything. Chukudi, did you get that? Yeah? So everything now is blamed on the economy.
It's not just everything being blamed on the economy. This is a man whom we can accuse of sexism. He is crying only for the male departures. Fisayo, you're bitter.
well, let me reserve my comments because these days you have to blame the lack of tears on something. It could also be as a result of it could be as a result of a lot of things. Perhaps even his relationship with those who departed and he didn't share the tear. You understand?
Yeah. A man doesn't out with it all. He keeps something to himself.
So let's see what's on the Daily Sun. The opening page, the Daily Sun is the main advert is about the Federal Capital Territory commissioning, but just beside the masthead you see this one: Fair Grips Makodi as herdsmen attack and injure 6. PDP condemns attack, says Benue under siege. Then something on Heritage Bank, bad loans, poor due diligence costs Heritage Bank its license. And of course, the Daily Sun is not shying away from the issue of FG Labour, and says FG Labour decide new minimum wage in a week. Claire, this is on page 6, 8, and 25. Perhaps maybe this headline came before some of the resolutions yesterday, because Labour said they would go to the organs of and then so not only they're going to go back and then get approvals from other organs so that they can know whether to call it off. We got the track up there in
so they can take action. Chukudi, we're waiting for you.
Quickly, this is very important. I'm going to go to Labour because it's the talk of the town. But let me quickly talk about the heritage. The first thing that happens when this kind of thing happens is that people panic. What has become of my money? they've killed me. I don't think it's really like that. The law guiding the activities of the NDIC is a law that is more humane now. Okay? The liquidation process has started. The customers do not have any fears if their money is 5 million or below.
Who is saying so? You or the...
No. That's
NDIC
is spelled out there.
Okay.
It's spelled out there. You know, that has become law. But if you have in excess of 5 million, you have to wait for the disposal of the bank's assets and all that to get the excess over the 5 million you have. So people should not panic. And I want to say, how many people really have more than 5 million in the bank?
Yes, and of course
My
they said,
don't keep your money in the bank. Go and invest it.
And you know, the NDIC is saying to those of them who have, who are expecting about 5 million, that they shouldn't also worry because the money will be transferred to their alternate bank
accounts
using their BVN. Yes, so it makes it easier.
It's a much more organized.
It makes it easier, so you don't have to go to the bank.
All states, era and all that, all the tiers that people had. We are moving really. We are
in the 90s. You had issues of a bank run when people quickly rush to the bank so the hair is distressed and withdraw in bulk and all that. But electronically you can just transfer. But the only issue will be for customers perhaps who have just one bank account, and they now need to perhaps
precisely. That's very important. But again,
put forward a new account, perhaps register somewhere, then put forward a new account.
But did anyone expect? Did you see it coming that Heritage was going to be, revoked the license?
No, you don't see it coming as a watcher and observer out there in public, but financial watchers would know. Government would know when distress is creeping onto the premises of a bank. But you do not rush into announcing it because the panic aspect of it is played down a lot. You don't want to give people that the financial environment is that shaky, you understand?
Okay,
so let's go to
we're told we have just a few minutes.
Really? These three good things about the strike, let me quickly say. NACON, that's the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, is assuring intending pilgrims that the industrial action will not affect the trip to Saudi Arabia. Good thing. Our senior secondary school students are writing their exams. Good thing. Then the other good thing in the immediate is that the government and Labour, they have signed a pact to keep talking. Those are the good things. Otherwise, Claire,
otherwise, Labour strike has also crippled Super Eagles.
This is where I want to go.
Exactly.
Just coin it very well.
Yes.
The strike is affecting our strikers in the Super Eagles.
Super Eagles. Yes. And then
for the qualifiers.
And then the Bafana people are blowing hot. They're preparing for Super Eagles clash. So if our Super Eagles can't, but I'm wondering how?
Some of them fly to Abuja and they can't, connect to you. Some are in Lagos.
But by special arrangement, for crying out loud, like the issue of pilgrims, I can't save up for Hajj and you tell me an industrial action. So also would we, as sports has become the unifier in this country, and make provision for that match not to be impeded.
Professor, I would ask you, yes, just before we go, just in less than 30 minutes, CSCI is apprehensive over Osimhen's absence. I don't know.
Is it CSCI or gangling Finidi George?
CSCI is for my coaches, just express. Osimhen not being there, perhaps will give some confidence to our opponents, but we have a lot of players now. Victor Boniface and so many players are coming in. And Lookman, fresh from a hat-trick.
No, don't just call him Lookman. Call him the guy that knocked out Leverkusen.
It was a goodbye. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, you're goodbye. Yes, I was actually raring to go.
Please, thank you. As always, thank you. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break. The conversation will begin presently. Please join us again.
A good
farmer is a craftsman of the highest order. It is said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30 seconds video and a picture of the garden which indicates its location to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
Now, welcome your host, Bisola Ayola.
It's the Uppercam family. The Anora family.
Animal like láti máa kọ beef nígbà tí rap ti sojú kan bí ẹja kan beef. Cause I kick tight flows tó máa yíyan lásìkò. Ṣòro pé yàtọ̀ sí Fuji kì í ṣe Rẹ̀mí Àlùkò. This is for the year kì í ṣe fáwọn tó bá lùkò. Dípò àwọn tó bọ́ àkórin ẹni wọ́n ti sùkò.
I have only 10,000 naira. I want Brazilian wig. I want foundation. I want powder. I want lip liner and lipstick.
Where you want Siam?
How you doing, Enara?
I'm good, and you? You look beautiful.
Stop it, Enara! Stop it! Zoom in on my face.
Immediately you came in, I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful.
Enara, stop it! Stop it! I like it. So standing right here is someone that survived
Bell
palsy, facial paralysis, and stroke. So I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Now let's take a background for our first topic. This is to begin our conversation on the 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria. And our background is put together by Joseph Ose.
May 29th, 2024, Nigeria recorded a milestone in its democratic journey as it marks 25 years of uninterrupted democracy. This is the longest since independence in 1960. The First Republic lasted for 6 years, the second 4 years, while the Third Republic was aborted as the presidential election was annulled. 1999 ushered in the Fourth Republic, giving Nigerians 25 years periodic opportunities to elect leaders of their choice and speak to authorities on their desires, aspirations, and monitor development, as well as hold leaders accountable. For many analysts, the most appreciable gains of the 25 years is the freedom of expression and speech, far from the authoritarian, oppressive, and lack of accountability experienced during military administrators. Reforms in the electoral process can be counted as major gain. The Electoral Act 2022 became a game changer in the nation's electioneering as it enabled the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to define the mode of voting and transmission of results, as well as to review declaration of election results made under duress. It legalized the use of technology in elections, redefined overvoting, and mandates INEC to take reasonable steps to provide support to persons with disabilities during voting. The impact has been felt in elections conducted since then, with a lot of outcomes reflecting reasonable participation of electorate and results reflecting the will of the masses. Though the country has experienced some degrees of insecurity and economic challenges within these democratic years, many believe these are temporary difficult moments the country and citizens will go through to reap future democratic gains. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will go down memory lane to being the light on Nigeria's 25 years of unbroken democracy and the games.
All right, that was Joseph Oteng giving us a background report, I should say, to our conversation on 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria. And if you've just joined in, this will be our first conversation. A reminder now that we have a second conversation, of course, on the latest in the ongoing organized labor strike, and that will come up immediately after this conversation. Let me quickly introduce our guests that are here in the studio. We have, of course, seated with us is Honorable Samuel Onibu. He's former member of the House of Representatives and sponsor of Nigeria's Climate Change Act and Southeast representative on the board of Northeast Development Commission, NEDC. We're very glad to have you join us today, Honorable Onibu.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
All right, Fisayo, you have.
Yeah, also joining us here is Senator Binta Masi Garba. She represented Adamawa North Federal Constituency in the Senate in 2015. Apart from that, she also, at a time in her political career, was a state party chairman. And then she also has the distinction of representing two different states in the National Assembly. At the time, she was the member representing Kaduna South in the House of Representatives. Let me welcome her, especially Binta Masi Garba. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
All right, we're still expecting one or two other people to join us in the conversation as soon as the rival introduce them. But for now, let us begin by laying, a foundation to our conversation so that we can, forge, a pathway. And I'd like to start with Honorable Onibu. How did you get here? I mean, it's a local parlance, How did we get here? Can you just give us a kind of perspective on what led to, our democratic journey in 1999?
Okay, thank you very much indeed. It's been a long journey in a sense, and not even a straight journey, for that matter, as far as democratic practice is concerned. We started off, very well. We don't want to go into all the regions and all that. But by the time we had the mishap, the coup, in 1966, January, and then July, and that regime of General Gowon had actually promised to introduce democratic system of government sometime in the 70s, mid-70s. Then there were issues of that not being possible and all that. And eventually, the government of General Murtala Mohammed now came and made that promise that they were going to hand over. So General Obasanjo, who took over after the assassination of General Mohammed, was able to hand over in 1979. But it was short-lived, just for about 4 years and 3 months. And by December 31st, 1983, that government was overthrown. And then that was led by General Buhari. And then he too was overthrown by General Babangida. And General Babangida had a long stay, nearly 10 years, and was able to do elections, which produced Chief MKO Abiola. But then he said the election was annulled, but I'm happy that he's been restored. Now, after that, then the crisis, serious crisis came when General Abacha took over, and then General Abacha, passed on in 98, and then June, and General Abdul Salam took over, and then was able to hand over within a short space of time. And then we started from there. We've been managing to move from there to this point.
You forgot you forgot the ING, the Shonekon.
Okay, the Shonekon short regime, yes, which was overthrown by General Abacha on November 17, 1993. Then after that, we saw, by the time we handed over, General Absalam handed over to Chief Obasanjo as president. So we have moved from there. It's not been quite smooth. But one thing that we should know, actually, is that we have made steady progress, no matter the challenges we have had along the line. We made steady progress in that under General Obasanjo, there were several Senate presidents that were, impeached. Speakers had issues, were impeached, all just within a short space of time. But after he left, then we saw someone like Senator David Mark having a peaceful stay, staying for 2 terms even, and just like that. So the point I'm making is that along this line, along this checkered history, we've been able to build some kind of foundation that is worthy of recognition and emulation.
All right, talking about foundation and recognition, one would say, some would be looking through the window, outside looking in. You have been part of the process. At a period when people perhaps didn't know that those opportunities will come, you grabbed some of these opportunities. Tell us about your experience as a politician, and also, in terms of the constituencies that you straddled in the north, northwest, Kaduna South, northeast, Adamawa North. Tell us about your experiences and some of the things that are unique to this last 25 years.
Well, thank you very much. I think to God be the glory that we have this undisrupted or interrupted democracy, 25 years. It has not been easy, but the most important thing is that some of us took the bold step to veer into that murky water of politics, and at that time when we started, a lot of people were not given interest in it, just because of what the speaker mentioned, enumerated, how democracy came in and how it was thwarted and all those things. So by 1998, when we started, a lot of people weren't sure that it was going to work. There was no godfatherism at that point in time. It is you, the people, and what you have been able to do prior to the time of election. Like me, I never knew what I was doing, the little things I was doing within that little community was going to pay off. I never knew. You go to houses where you now, how you talk to women, how they can now start trading within themselves. Because the Kaduna South that I represented was literally virtually and Muslim community where you have most women in the Puda. So now how do you now see women trying to see how they can start selling things? Then maybe weekends you bring them out to start showing them what sanitation is all about. I never knew that one day it will pay off on that. And when the opportunity came, again, that is another story, working with New Nigeria newspaper, where I was virtually not, should I say, because of my gender, there was this discrimination. That was what even pushed me into politics. And I was saying that if as outspoken as I am, I can be treated this way. There are other women who couldn't be bold enough to speak their mind. And we went in. And the thing is that a woman coming out to vie for politics, there's this elderly man that said, if we have tried the men, they have failed. Why don't you give this little girl the chance to see if she can do it? That was the key. Give her the little chance to see if she can do better. And I held on to that. So the thing is that you go back to the memory lane to see those that were there before, what have they done or what haven't they done? And I think in 1999 when we came here, we had an interactive section with then the president, General Olusegun Obasanjo. In that, and I asked the question, if I am representing a federal constituency, then that means I must have the face of the federal government in that constituency. So what is the face of the government in my constituency? And through that, when we started, the present Deputy Secretary General then was the SA on MDGs. And we had to now sit with her and ask her question. Now, how do we now have an impact that the people will see a federal constituency, activities within the constituency? And that is when this constituency project came on board. I think I stand, and I stand to be corrected. In 2001, I think I was the first person to start the constituency project. And what was it? People came out, see to me winning the election. Then what will I now say thank you at the end of the day? At that time, Kaduna South has 449 polling units, 13 wards, but it is population is condensed and within that area. And we started with the chairman of those wards to now tell them, appreciate them, thank you. And at that time, the government came with this poverty alleviation program called the PAP. And mostly it was just enclave onto the PDP. And I took it upon myself and I said, no, it is wrong. Election has been conducted, everybody has won here. In the center, it is PDP. But when you want to go even to the constituency, the 360 members are representing federal constituency, irrespective of their political affiliation. May the soul of Tony Anene rest in peace. I went and I said, no. So when I spoke on the media, I never knew he saw it, and he was looking for this little girl. Unfortunately, then, again, may their soul rest in peace, Madaki was the Minister of State, being from my state. So I now had to now say, look, Kaduna South, that's why the fight is the APP, a representative in the federal constituency. We shouldn't be denied the PAP, that is the poverty alleviation.
So distinguished Senator, the democratic period now gave the small girl a platform, of course, to realize her dreams. Before we even look, deeper into what democracy has presented, even for the female gender, because that is also critical. I just like to ask, I remember in 1976, and I was a very young girl then. I think I was in my primary school, and that was when the coup,
February
coup, and I have personal experiences of schools, because
we all have.
Yes, because I was within the radio house, and during the time you would have the armored cars, guarding the FRC, and we call it Broadcasting House in Ikoyi at that time, all over the place. So apart from Dimka School, I also was privileged to experience Dimka School, so I know what it was, waiting to hear the martial music on radio at about 4 or 5 a.m. and all that, and then everybody in the radio. So I'm just wondering, all of these, I know more. How did Nigeria, manage to prevent, that scenario? For 25 years, we've been able to hold this democratic, strength and hold it tightly. How did we do that?
He said it in his preambles when he started. Before the 1966, there was, a democratic government on ground. What went wrong? And that's the question we should be asking. What went wrong that the military had to take over? And after the military has taken over, what again went wrong with the military that the Nigerians are now clamoring for another democracy? So those are the two angles that we need to look at critically. When we came in before the amalgamations and in the 1959 assembly and what have you in Lagos, all the regional system, what went wrong with the democracy that was in place prior to our independence? Now, what went wrong after the military took over? Because probably they will now say the system is not working. Now they came in on board, is the system still working? And I think we have to applaud the Nigerians, as it were, standing to say, hey, for us to strive, we must be the one to lead ourselves and to pave way for what we will achieve as a people. Democracy is for the people, by the people, and of the people. So it's you and I that are the government, and we must put things in order that our people. Now, that is the democracy. Now, who is that person that will come out? They look at the federal, where the president will come in, the state, where the governor will come in, the senatorial district, the federal constituency, the state constituency, the local government, the ward. Once if you get those people, and the essence is that now, vote for the right people that will do the right job, that will bring about the dividends of democracy to the people. So the key issue is, what is wrong with the military that Nigerians were clamoring for democracy? Now that democracy has come, to God be the glory, 25 years uninterrupted. Some are not happy, but at least we're pushing it.
I agree, we're pushing.
Just before we go to the next question, very quickly, let's welcome Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede. They say it's online.
He's not ready yet.
We'll go back to him. I'm excited because he's calling from my alma mater, but we'll go back to him.
I know. Okay, because she's told us that, well, what I can deduce from what Honorable Massey has told us is that Nigerians probably desire democracy, and who would not, if you understand, if we know the value that democracy confers. But is that really it? I mean, it's a long period, 25 years. There must be something that Nigerians, have benefited from the democratic process that has enabled them to sustain, this process unbroken for 25 years.
But perhaps you can bring this on board just to add to it, because I know you are going to go far. You were part of the committee that put together the Electoral Act, and when you talk about the electoral cycle, coming every 4 years, apart from the off-cycle elections, naturally, this is key to the sustenance of democracy. Having the Electoral Act that would be the conveyor belt, sort of, to help the processes along.
Yes.
In your capacity as a member of that committee, putting that together, and in your experience as a Nigerian, ushered in by fellow Nigerians into the Green Chambers, tell us about your experience and the distinguishing features of these 25 years and the other republics.
Thank you very much indeed. There are many reasons why we as a people, Nigerians, have now settled for a democratic process. I'll quickly refer to some of the views expressed by James Harrington, one of the very, very, very early authors on checks and balances, tenure, and all that. His views were later expanded by Montesquieu on the issue of checks and balances and all that. The essence is that you have to have tenure. Tenure is key, and that's why I like to refer to James Harrington quite frequently. Tenure is key, that people know that, okay, he's going to be there for 4 years. If he does well, we will send him back. If he doesn't do well, we find a way to remove him. Tenure is key, and that appearance that, well, he has a limited period of 8 years, assuming you're a governor, you are a president, and all that. Those things help to, make people have confidence in the process. And again, when you have to go back and say, please, this is my record, my service record, consider me and send me back, you now know that you are drawing your strength, your stay in office from those people who come out in the afternoon, even in the rain, to use the power of their tongues to elevate you to that position. So if you know you are answerable to them, then you have a duty. I'm not trying to be personal, but I know in my federal constituency, Ikwe North, Umuahia North, Umuahia South, when I represented, they used to have one term. But when I came, I knew I was sent by the people, and I worked. And up to today, I'm the only person that was re-elected in that federal constituency for 25 years. So when you represent and you know that you owe your stay to those people, you have to do that. Then on the issue of the Electoral Act, we looked at it over and over and spotted some areas where there are flaws. We were particular also about this issue of how you conduct election, primary elections, which should be the foundation of whether you've been accepted by a party and to eliminating position. That's why you have Section 84, Subsection 1 of that Act. And so many other things. Even looking at the local government system, there was the feeling that, oh, local government belongs to the state and therefore we should not look at the law. That's why we came up with Section 150, Subsection 3, to make sure that as we go forward, conducting local government election, which is the foundation of the grassroots, there has to be in compliance with the provisions of the Act. So for us to have done this successfully for 25 years means that the people have seen that in some ways it's a little bit predictable that this is what is going to happen after a period of time.
So democracy is predictable.
Significantly predictable in terms of performance, in terms of your tenure in office. If you're making trouble, they know that, okay, even if he forced himself on us, after 8 years, you are out the door if you're a governor. So these things help to reinforce, make people say, okay, let's wait for him. The other one is, as we are progressing, as we are moving forward, beginning to deepen and broaden the basis of our democratic process, election is key. Because that's the only way that you go to secure another authority, the mandate to represent the people. So it's not a question of somebody watching over his shoulder whether another person is bringing a gun, to play the martial music that you talked about. I think we had enough of the martial music. We're a great nation, the most populous black nation on earth. So we have a duty to move in the right direction. Our economy, our politics, and even our culture and what we represent. So these things, when you look at them and you look at the growth that we have achieved over the years, then you then agree with me that this is where we should be. We'll have to work and continue to perfect.
I like that, but he also asked you to share with us some of your experiences. I don't know if you want to quickly paraphrase your question so that before we bring it.
The working on the Electoral Act was one of its interventions. Of course, you mentioned climate change as well, but just as an ordinary Nigerian, and the process, going to your constituency in Kwano and Umaya, North and South, speaking to the people, getting a buy-in to some of those things you were talking about. From that point to now, have we matured in terms of experience and the process? Because I'm talking from covering some of these bits, going to some of these elections. It seems to me as if not much has changed in terms of the interaction. Instead of looking at the manifestos, people still look at the bag you are carrying.
Oh yeah, that is there. But I'll tell you something. It's work in progress. We have made great progress. It's work in progress indeed. And I just cited an instance. I don't want to be particular. But look, my federal constituency, people went for one time. I went and I said I wanted to go back. There was resistance from the leaders, but the ordinary people who have seen my work ensured that, one, I was re-elected during the primary election, which was where the conspiracy is always found. And then in the general election, the people voted massively. So we have made progress, like I said. It's work in progress, no doubt. But we also would like to advise our friends, our colleagues who are in politics. It's not all about wearing either traditional and then maybe a bariga and all that. Work for the people, make difference. They'll see it and they'll pay you back.
Okay, I thought Professor Ayede is there. Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede, Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan, and he's joining us via Zoom from Ibadan or your state. Prof, thank you for joining us. I've taken the baton away from Fisayo. He wanted to introduce you because you're coming from his constituency, but there are no constituency projects. Thank you for joining us. So please, can you weigh in on a discussion? We're trying to find out why is it that, or what has made Nigerians to sustain democracy for 25 years and being able to prevent, us from hearing those marshals and the music from the barrels of the gun.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, Nigerians. If you follow the series of surveys by Afrobarometer over many years, you know that Nigerians have always preferred democratic rule to military rule. Also, if you follow public discourse for decades now, even during the military rule, they always describe military rule as an aberration. So they think that the normal thing to happen is for democracy to prevail. And so after the long period of military rule, no one is really eager to return to that kind of rule after the experience that we have had for over 2 decades. So we have experienced some challenges with democracy, but it was not always all the time this challenging. If you look back to the very early days of the Fourth Republic, which began in 1999, you see that we actually started with greater optimism than we currently are experiencing. The conditions of the workers, the reform of governance, the introduction of monetization, the improvement in the global oil market, and the rise in the standard of living of Nigerians was experienced during that period. So the first 8 years was somewhat filled with optimism until the 2007 election, which was so badly conducted that Nigerians began to experience some form of disillusionment. But even after that election, if you go on to the subsequent election in 2011, not only were things still looking okay, the economy was not really very bad. It was not until around 2015, 2016 that the first major recession came in. Although we've had a problem with the conduct of elections, the introduction of technology and the series of reforms that were made under the Jega government raise hope that, yes, we are having challenges with election, but that this will eventually be resolved. With introduction of the technology, the card reader, then later on the biometrics and so on and so forth. But as it turned out, it seems that the trajectory was not going in a linear manner. And suddenly we are faced with serious economic challenges as well as even problems with the conduct of elections, especially with the debacle that happened, the technology glitch in the 2023 elections. So, well, yes, we are going through very difficult moments right now. At no point in the history of the Fourth Republic were we this down. So I think, yes, there's cause for worry, but we can also beat our chest and say we moved up a little bit.
If you look at this last 25 years, and look at some of, the question I put to Honorable Nuibo earlier, the distinguishing features, some would say, some of the republics we've had in the past, there was a lot of, internal party, democracy in terms of, the activities and capturing the imagination of the people with their manifestos. Have we grown from that? Or are we going backwards in terms of, engaging the public, not making it for a 4-year festival like the one I have in my village?
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of both. One is to recognize the fact that we are operating in a period where there's no sharp ideological divide, even globally. Previously, we normally talk about the leftists and the rightists, and then we talk about the social democrats. And the ideology define political parties. In advanced countries, they are sort of been able to hold some kind of identity for the major parties. But here in Nigeria, neoliberalism has taken over, and all parties seems to have neoliberal policies. And that's why if you look at the build up to the 2023 election, all presidential candidates were in fact saying that they will remove subsidies. So their policies hardly diverge in terms of the vision of the political parties in concrete terms and in terms of the manifestos of the candidates as well. But that's not to say that there are still no differences. Claim to proven conservative, but that's how far it goes. Programs, because again, they are the kind of intellectual influence that we have on the Nigerian government. We see heavy presence of organizations like the World Bank and the IMF. And then we also see that the political class seems to have embraced those kind of policies. So we are in a situation where ideology is not very significant. And that's why even for this government, we ask, yes, we have this series of policies that we bandy around, but what is the grand vision, of the government in the next 4 years, in the next 8 years, or even in the next 20 years? So it is to that extent that, yes, there's a loss of that ideological touch that you find within the political parties. And also because you don't have that ideology drawing people to political parties, the political parties have become very fluid. People move around, go and fro, and again fro and to within those political parties. So it's difficult to make any claim that we have these strong manifestos that Nigerians rally around. You don't really see that kind of feature in the politics of today, contrary to what we had in the Second Republic and the First Republic.
Ayede, thank you for the points that you have enunciated. We'll just keep you on hold for a moment and return to you presently. Back here in the studio, Senator Binta Masi, I want to, take you back to what Honorable Onibu, talked about, the driving force, the factors that enabled us to sustain our democratic process for this long. He said, first of all, that the democracy is predictive, but of course he anchored that on elections, tenure and elections. And I'm just wondering, in terms of governance and leadership, how predictive, has the political leadership been over the past 25 years?
Well, I think the dimension is changing. If you look at how we started at the 4th Assembly, now we're in the 10th Assembly. And if you now put it on a scale of preference, the people's wish are becoming more laudable. Okay. Yeah, it's laudable than those political powers that ought to be. Take a good example of 2 states where instead of the tenure to be 2 terms, they ended up with 1 term. My state, Adamawa State, and Lagos State. My state, Adamawa State, I have to take the state where at least I was the chair when we brought in Bindo, Senator Bindo, into office as a governor. So what went wrong that he wasn't re-elected? The people weren't happy with some of his policies. With all the powers that came on board, the people said no. So if it were before, the powers would say yes, and the people will now say yes. But even if you look at the National Assembly, which obviously I am beginning to have problems with the tenure of the National Assembly. If you bring in a member for the first time, no matter how intelligent you are, you must take 2 to 2.5 years to understand the rudiment of legislative activities. Now you bring in a starter, and by the time he or she is beginning to understand the rudiment of parliamentary activities, he's thinking about re-election. And when she or he goes back for re-election, the people might not say, no, it is maybe this local government A, you are from local government A, it is the time of local government B. They have forgotten to understand that the more you leave a parliamentarian in the parliament, the better for that constituency. So government again, on the other hand, spends so much money in trying to put the freshers on board. And the time when government will now say, okay, this is the time for us to now start reaping from what the investment we place on that. The constituents are saying, no, we don't want that person. So day in, day out, I can understand where he's coming from. Because if you bring in first member, after 4 years, the person is out. Another person is coming. If government spends in terms of, how will I put it, in terms of improving the knowledge of that member, it's gone.
So what is the context of evolution that you have seen in the legislature over the past year?
What I would have appreciated even the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act is revolving. You can't run away from it. I remember when I was a member of the Constituent Assembly or the National Confab. One of the things we said in government and governance is that, look, we have gone this parliamentary. We said it wasn't working. We're now in presidential. Now people are now saying that it's too expensive. Now can we now take a digression away from the presidential and probably go back with a new form or a new phase? We have 6 zones. Can we now say each of those zones should produce a vice president? So if the entire 5 zones produces vice president, one of the zones now can now go out nationally to produce, the president. Then give them a 5-year term, single term, no matter whatever you do, and come out with a policy that will encapsulate all the other region to now know if the northern Nigeria is education, put education only on the northern Nigeria. The southern part, whatever it is, if it has to do with agriculture, infrastructure or whatever, so that at least the federal government will, if Northwest produces the the presidency, the other one should have a vice president. After 5 years, Northwest will not produce.
This is your proposition.
That was what we proposed.
Okay.
That was what we proposed. But again, people now say, no, it's going to be too expensive. Now, what we are now trying to say is that because the agitation of Nigerians now is that some people are more inclined to govern the country than other people. So once the rotational system is not captured in the constitution, PDP started it, let's have a rotational system. That even in the states, as we are now talking, it is working. Because if northern part of a senatorial district produces a state governor for 8 years, other zones will now be saying, no, it is our time, it is our time. So when we replicate it, it will go a long way to now say, okay, now this democracy has come to stay for good. Now, on a daily basis, we've started on this angle, it is not working. Now, okay, let's paraphrase it and go to this angle to see how it's working. So, if we do that, obviously it will take us to another dimension.
Let me come to Honorable Nibu, but the question is for both of you, but for you who drive the system, politicians, sometimes you confuse the voters. You come 4 years showing one flag, the next year another logo. Sometimes even at the junction of the hall, they will ask, which party are you now? So what do we do to that in terms of, driving a system, improving trust and letting us know exactly where you stand? Because when it's so shaky, where you stand in, at different times, it's difficult for those who even want to follow to know where they are.
Thank you, Fisayo. Your points are well taken. It's very important. And it's one of the things we try to address, when we are working on the Electoral Act. But I'll tell you something. It's got to do with the system. It's got to do with the Nigerian system. And that's why I said in one of the interviews I did in those days that the party administrators and major stakeholders in a state, they have serious rules to play to safeguard, ensure that we deepen and broaden our democratic system. The reason I'm saying that is that from my own personal experience, even when you are doing well, a few party administrators with some stakeholders can get together and say, You know that Binta, she's not going back.
It's true.
And when you ask them, oh, is she not working? They will not respond to whether the person is working or not. They'll tell you it's not going back. That's the reason why you find some people quickly start looking for another place to give them a platform to run election. I've said this before and I'm saying it again. It's up to us, Nigerians, to help, to ensure that when you are elevated through the power of the thumbs of the ordinary people, whether as a party administrator or as a legislator, you have a duty to be honest, to do your best to improve the system and not to create, problems along the line. And once that is done, you allow people to now choose that, oh, Fisayo is doing his job well, let's return him. Then they vote for you. And not that when they come to primary elections, you are already excluded, even before the primary elections begin. So that's the reason why you see a lot of people changing flag. The other one is some of their leaders. She talked a little bit about godfathers and all that. When they are moving, they want to move with their followers. And you see some of those followers moving to another party because their leader has moved to another party. And there was a point she tried to make about, the proposals at the confab and the issue of, rotational and maybe 6 vice presidents, out of which you have 1 president. I think perhaps one of the challenges with that will perhaps be the issue of whether we're going to have a one-party state or you're going to have proper political contestation where people from different political parties are also aspiring to get to that position. So if you are having proper political contestation, then it's going to be a challenge in having, people who are going to just go in particular order. Because one of the beauties, or one of the particular beauties of a democratic dispensation is the fact that you have the chance to choose when you are running a plural democracy. You have the chance to choose from either party A or party B due to their performance. So you probably have this kind of proposal working when you have, okay, we have a one-party state, it's just going to be like this, and then it gets to the top. So these are some of the ways by which we can really make our system work and work very, very well.
Thank you, Honorable Onibo. Professor Ayede, if you're still with us, again, I'm sure you listened to Senator Binta Masi and Honorable Onibo talk about some of the gains in the past 25 years of the National Assembly, and of course what they hope can change. And Senator Binta talked about going back to a parliamentary system of government. But what we're not certain is whether that is intended as a measure or as a way of reducing cost of governance, which Nigerians have been canvassing, or probably restructure the political structure, political and electioneering structure. Probably we want to know whether a parliamentary system, rather than having a unicameral legislature, would suffice for our democracy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this debate has gained the attention of a number of Nigerians, including the Nigerian Political Science Association, and a lot of ideas have come out of those debates. One is that we must distinguish between attributes of the presidential system and attributes of governance more broadly. Sometimes we attribute things that are that do not derive from the form of government to it. So the presidential system of government is not particularly known to be very expensive across the world. So even when we discuss the advantages and disadvantages between presidential and parliamentary system, the cost of governance is not a major factor. The cost of governance is very clear where the cost is coming from. For instance, if you talk about the number of ministers, you can decide whether or you want to have 46 ministers, or if you want to have 18 ministers. It does not change the presidential system because you have only 4 ministers. So I think it's important for us to clarify that, so that we know precisely where the cost of governance is coming from. Now, if you decide that you want to reduce the cost of governance, you may also think about whether you have a single legislature or you have 2. If you have 1 and the population is just as much as you when you have 2, and then you're still paying them the kind of salary allowances, and you still require the same kind of infrastructure. Issues associated with the presidential system that people talk about. The first, of course, is the whole idea of gridlock between the executive and the legislature, and people saying the kind of checks and balances that is expected as create a situation where that will be addressed. Then the second one is also that which is not directly related to the presidential system, but it's actually related to the electoral system that we run. And people are thinking that we need to create a situation where the political parties will be very decisive in terms of how people behave in parliament. And when you look around for a solution to some of these problems, what you find is that we need to look at the objectives of government, the challenges that we have faced, and think about ways and means of reducing where the cost is coming from. And many people have suggested that we should not just throw away ways of modifying it. In other words, taking from the parliamentary system whatever features we think would help our presidential system work better. And that's why it is not anything peculiar to Nigeria. If you look around the world, hybrid system, what some people call semi-presidential system or semi-parliamentary system, have become much more common. That's why if you look at the situation in South Africa, for instance, they have a semi-parliamentary system where you have the president and you also have a head of government. The relationship, of course, is not like that. Exactly what you have in the First Republic Nigerian parliamentary system. So there are many options that can be adopted to modify Nigeria's presidential system and address some of these measures, these challenges. Some people have even suggested, including the Political Reform Conference under Goodluck Jonathan, that we should trim down the number of ministers and also find a way of ensuring that ministers are not taken from outside government, but that some of them are taken from parliament, rather than getting ministers from outside government, in order to reduce costs and then to create a more synergy between the legislature and the executive. So there are possibilities of doing that, but must distinguish between what is causing the cost of government to be high as distinct from with the problems with the presidential system that we need to address.
Thank you, Prof. Let's come back to Senator, and this is an aspect before we wrap up that I want you to talk about. Nigerians vote for the candidates, but parties present them. You are a party state chairman, or of a party. What do you bring on board when you talk about the leadership, recruitment processes? That you now present us with these candidates. We are left with the options that you present to us as parties. What goes into those things?
Well, maybe because I have been involved in elections when I was in Kaduna, and I saw what transpired. Because when I was in Kaduna, politics being played in Kaduna was entirely different from what I saw in Adamawa State. But one thing that was key is your sincerity and entrustment. Once if you are sincere and you give the people the hope and you don't determine who becomes what, they present you the person they want to vote into power. So when I was a chairman of APC Adamawa State, I never got myself entangled in all that were aspiring. And every time
nobody brought bags to you.
Nobody. I refuse it, and I stand to be corrected and challenged. I refuse it 10 to 6 p.m. I'm in the office. We discuss whatever we want to discuss, and we allow. But constantly and always is giving hope to the leadership from the ward to the unit to the local government to say, hey, do we want to win election? If the answer is yes, then give us competent and capable people that the people will not say no to. And to the best, I wasn't thinking I was going to be part of those that will be elected. So we went now looking for who will now become a member, a senator representing Adamawa North. Because Adamawa North at that point in time is a no-go area for any political party apart from PDP. So whoever you are now going to ask, come and take a ticket, was now no, APC is not going anywhere in Adamawa North. But until when the people will say, okay, but you too, you are once a member and you have played a very vital role in that 2 local government. So sending you in 3 local government will not be a problem. So I came at the last resort, trying to fill in the gap. But again, like I said, people are watching you on all that you have done. What I did in Kaduna, I never knew it was going to have an impact in in Adamawa North, in my state. But what I'm saying is that don't bring someone and enforce that person. Take a good example what happened in Nasarawa State in this last election. A senator that was there, I think Kwashiki, Godia Kwashiki, came in under APC. The national chairman of APC then was a former senator, Abdullahi, who is from Nasarawa State. The former governor was a senator of Adamawa State. But Kwashiki and Wadada were refused a ticket on the APC. They now went back to SDP, which nobody ever believed. But because of the impact they have placed or they have done in their constituency, the people refused to vote for APC, who has the national chairman and the party, the government of the day, APC. They voted the 2 members, senators, representing 2 different under another political party. So as the reach of the people now is becoming louder, and their voice you cannot push aside. So what we are saying is that democracy will work when there is a platform that is not being meddled within to now say no. Okay, Binta, it happens to me in 2019. It happens to me in 2019. Binta is not coming, and it stops there. What did she do? Nothing, but she's not coming.
I like this point that you've raised, and I'm just going to allow Honorable to weigh on it because it's what a lot of people have been also thinking about. When you look at 25 years ago, some people would say that in terms of economic indices, then the value of the naira against the dollar was not appreciable, and that of course the kind of malfeasance and corruption we see today was not there 25 years ago, probably thinking that democracy enabled these vices even much more than it used to be. If you can respond to this in less than 60 seconds, I'm afraid. Yes.
Thank you. I would just like to re-emphasize what she said, and I'm happy that you, as a party administrator, House of Reps member, a senator, that you saw that sometimes when you have worked and the people truly desire to have you back, you see a group of people, say they're leaders or administrators in the party, say you will not go back. So I'm happy you corroborated that, and it's important for us to address that because that's what is causing problem. And I'm going to say that yes, you said Naira has lost value and all that. It's an accumulation of, well, maybe some of the missteps that we had in trying to run the democratic system of government. And also the fact that people have moved away from our values, the values with which we are known over the years, with which we are respected as people. Values of honesty, hard work, sincerity of purpose. good neighborliness. Those things, they should not be washed away by democracy or military regime. Once we have those values and keep them, we continue to make gradual but steady, progress in what we are doing.
Honorable, thank you very much for your interventions this morning, as usual. And of course, we continue to look at the democratic space and contribute to our quota. And we've had Honorable Samuel Noibo, former lawmaker, representing Ekwano, Umaya North and South Federal Constituency of Abia State on the program. And off school, we've had Senator Binta Masi Garba, former member, House of Representative, former senator, and former party chairman, who contributed immensely so far in this Fourth Republic. And from Ibadan, from my alma mater, we've had Professor Emmanuel Emiaye, the Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. UI is for you and I. Good morning.
All right, we did say that this a conversation that we cannot end in one edition of Good Morning Nigeria. 25 years of unbroken democracy is such a long time, and there's so many, frames to talk about, and so we do appreciate all our guests. But you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Please stay with us. When we come back, we'll commence our second topic on the organized labor strike.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know we tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like mountain, we spread colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we make passion, yeah. Let the message is you, we are more than the solution. We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strength and unity, we know we carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the Real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA. Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town.
Hey!
Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davies!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
Nigeria means unity. Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible. As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
Day 2 of the nationwide strike declared by the organized labor over the new national minimum wage.
All right, the strike started on Monday and paralyzed economic activities in almost every part of the country. And the federal government is, of course, still appealing to the organized labor to return to the negotiating table and in the interest of the country. And of course, we saw that the outcome of the meeting with the SGF yesterday.
Yes, expecting that everything will be fruitful, hopefully before even the end of the day. It is in the studio to speak further on the minimum wage. Joining us now is Titi Lokbe Anifowoshe, lawyer, development consultant, and active Nigerian citizen.
Yes.
Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So let's quickly start off from where the two parties, left off. There was a meeting yesterday night, and both parties have come to some sort of agreement. What do you make of the agreement?
I think we're getting there. It's reasonable, and I must extend my gratitude, appreciation, and commendation to the federal government for, taking that swift action of sitting with them. And I actually do not think it's two-party, because it's a tripartite committee, not just the Labour Congress now, the Labour Congress and then the private sector and the government. So it's not just the NLC, TUC and the federal government alone, but the NLC, TUC, private sector and the federal government, including, of course, representative of state governments across all geopolitical zones.
So what do you mean, if you take a look at the tickers of the agreement? One, the federal government says it is still committed to doing much more than 60,000 naira minimum wage, and the second ticker is for the organized labor to go back to the negotiating table. And of course the labor says, okay, we've heard the president, we will go back and meet. What do you make of all that? Does it give hope?
Well, first of all, the
strike will be called off.
First of all, I think we need to be emphatic. Not just 60,000 naira, but a 100% increase. 60,000 naira indicates a 100% increase. Addition in 60,000 naira plus. So I think that if the NLC and the TUC are indeed for the Nigerian people, one would see that the shutdown that happened yesterday is affecting the Nigerian masses more than even the politicians, quote and unquote, that they seem to be making a statement to. Because think about it, if there was no power supply for over how many hours, and then the people who can afford to fuel their generator would go on with it without being affected. There was a shutdown on airports. Who are the people who make use of that? You and I, the average Nigerian. So I think that it's not just a starting point, but I think that that meeting yesterday evening should indicate the readiness and the empathetic angle of the government to say, yes, we hear you, yes, we see you, you can go back and let's see let's meet at the middle, not just for the government, but for the people. We should also remember that this negotiation is not just for civil servants, because what's the percentage of those who are employed on the civil service today? They're not even up to half of the totality of Nigerians who are employed under the private sector. So I think that if TUC, NLC are really for the Nigerian people, they need to, pad down. Yes, a little, and be more pragmatic and realistic with what their demands.
Someone is saying that when you look at these entire negotiations, to also need a buy-in from the sub-nationals, to get, because when the discussions were on in previous discussions, you see the sub-nationals saying they can pay this, they can pay that. Are we likely to get everybody to the table?
Okay, so it's important for us to note that at this table, we aren't just having the federal government. We have representative, the governor of Osun State, Governor Adeleke, is representing governors from Southwest, and then governors from other states are also representing governors across the geopolitical zone. Let's also remember that issues of national minimum wage is currently on the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution. What it means is that, yes, not just what happened pre-1959 when Awolowo, kick-started the whole concept of minimum wage for the western region of Nigeria. But right now we can't do it alone. It's about everybody. And of course, we also need to remember that when we're talking about national minimum wage, we aren't saying 60,000 naira or 35,000 naira or 30,000 is what somebody is going to get. It's a gauge to ensure that everybody, the people at the lowest cadre are incorporated in the system. So when we say 35,000 naira or 60,000 naira plus, it doesn't mean that high level 16 or level 12 or level 13 officer is receiving that specific amount of money. We also, so one thing I also think that we are talking about is the total embodiment of what the Nigerian government is doing. The 1 trillion student loan, the palliative, that's
the credit fund.
Yes, the credit fund, the palliative, the health insurance for staff on the civil service, and so many other things. So it's not just about that costing, it's about ensuring that the average Nigerian, whether a civil servant level 1, 2, 3, or anybody in the private sector, is able to live conveniently. So it's not just minimum wage.
But the issue is, sorry, Fisayo, please. Don't let
it's very important. See, she was just talking about the fact that yes, it is, the 60,000 plus. It's graduated upwards. Is that you don't fall below anywhere, which is cherry news. But let's look at the interaction between government and labor.
Okay.
Over the years, has it been very healthy? Has it been, like government said, it's not about me against you. It's supposed to be we're working together to get to an objective. How would you rate it? Are we moving forward in this, or is it a side of the divide and a face-off all the time?
Okay, so first of all, the concept of negotiations between the government and the Labour Congress is statutory. Yeah. By the current law, the National Minimum Wage Act, there ought to be a review every 5 years. We started this last year when the president did the inauguration, and on the table we have NLC, we have TUC, we have representative of the small and medium scale, we have governors representing each geopolitical zone. Now, that, in my opinion, showcases one thing: one, a recognition of statutory provisions, one, by the government; two, readiness to work with what is tenable. So I think that by the action of the government, it is healthy, considering that it's coming after a stipulation of the law. Yeah. On the part of the NLC, of course, they're supposed to be the voice of the labor, and they're supposed to be able to impute measures to get the attention of the government. Whether or not these measures or these actions of them or inactions of them is commensurate with what they are receiving at the other end, I do not think it's commensurate. Considering the fact that you started with a negotiation, you came with 1,000+% increase. 1,000+% increase. Let me take you back a little. In 2018, the previous, it was 18,000 naira to 30,000 naira. That's about how many percent? And then now you want to go from 30,000 naira to, assuming without considering, 490-something thousand naira.
But you are a development consultant and economist. You also know that the economic indices have also changed. A small tuber of yam is now selling for 5,000 naira. But it wasn't so in 2018 when the minimum wage was 18,000 naira.
Indeed.
Yes. So things have changed. So it's no longer, not even by 100%. Prices have soared, not just by 100%, but some even more than 250%. Some even much more.
Yes, I agree with you, but we also need to look at it from the angle of personnel cost. Okay, in May there was a removal of fuel subsidy. If we compare that removal of subsidy, of course we had issues with the increase in cost of living and what have you. But let's be realistic here. With this increase, we also have to look at it from the angle of personnel cost, because between 2018 and 2022 there was an increase in personnel cost, of course, of the government from 1.3 trillion to 1.8 trillion. Yeah. So now let's bring it to now including the 60,000 naira. And also we also need to remember that it's not just an increase in salary alone. We're also looking at it at influencing initiatives, policies that will give, that will ameliorate the hardship of not just the civil servants, but all of Nigeria at once. Okay, when the subsidy was removed, the government has been actively across, not just the federal government, our state government have been actively involved in the transmission from petrol
to
CNG across. And from Kwara, for example, and we recently just launched one a station where they're bringing in cars and buses for conversion.
Do you know how much it is to come from Ilori to Abuja by road? It's more than 50,000 naira.
Yes,
you know by how many percentage is that? And I think that, I don't know Fisayo, because I think that, and this is not my opinion, it's the opinion of some, those, we interacted with. They think that if, for instance, prior to the removal of the first subsidy, the CNG buses, were put out, were rolled out, across the country, that would have helped to, address the issue of transportation costs. If, for instance, the issue of food crops was addressed, that would address the issue of high cost of food items at the moment. Now, these are things that have been done after the first subsidy was removed, and we know that after this first subsidy was removed, everything went up.
Yes.
And Nigeria started feeling every pinch of, the hike in prices of commodities and services and all that. So what do you think at this juncture? What do you think that Labour should or could do now that we know, okay, everybody is saying government cannot carry, the load because of the high personnel cost and everything. So what should Labour do at this juncture?
Okay. I'm going to start from what I know, not what I think. That already at this point in time, there are initiatives, both monetary and non-monetary incentives that the government currently has on board. And I'm going to reel out some of them. Okay, 100 billion naira for the procurement of CNG Ford buses and CNG conversion kits.
You agree?
Good. 125 billion naira conditional grants and financial inclusion for small and medium scales. 25,000 naira each to be shared to 15 million households for 3 months. 185 billion palliatives to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy. 200 billion naira to support the cultivation of hectares of land.
These are
production.
Yes, these are. I'm not done. No. You are aware of placement.
Yeah, but I may have to dig the back of my house because it's concrete, so that I can plant. The way it's going, the cost of yam these days. But let's move, away from that. We've seen, the discussions. The Minister of Information, Minister of State for Labour and Employment, and representatives of the labour unions talking to us yesterday night, and we also played it back this morning. Where are you expecting things to be today?
Yes, that's what I said. What should they do?
I emphasize, or I hope that the Labour Congress will show goodwill by putting a hold on the shutdown. 1. 2. I also hope that the NLC, the TUC, would also be reasonable with meeting the government at the middle.
What would you consider the middle? Government had said 60, but
government said 60 plus, 60,000 naira plus.
So we don't know what the plus is.
Yes, we don't know what the plus is.
So what would you consider?
In law, we say consideration needs not be adequate but sufficient. And then of course we also have the immediate coordinator, but you can't give what you don't have. We do not want a repeat of history where about 35% of Nigerian states could not pay their workers that 30,000 wage. We do not want a repeat of. And then I also want to express my commendation on the fact that there was no deceit on the part of the government. I made the resolution if the government is saying, okay, you want to shut down the government, okay, no problem, we'll do it. And then at the end of the day, they start bringing justifications as to,
But that's what's discussing. But that's the posture, that is, triggering this strike. Because
not a posture, but a sense of distrust on the part of NLC TUC. A sense of distrust, not a posture. Because if it's a posture, the meeting they had overnight would not have occurred. If it's a posture. So I think it's just a question of lack of distrust. And I believe that when you see somebody walking towards something, I think you should be able to, be reasonable, even though you have an hindsight or an history of not trusting. But when you see the actions, you should be able to move towards it. So I believe that we're getting there. I also know as a fact that minimum wage is not charity. It's not largesse. It's not a gift. It's supposed to be an anchor for what is considerably reasonable for the lowest. So when we look at it, we have to also think about consequential increase. When you say 60,000 naira plus, it means that the person who is on the deputy director, let's multiply it and how much, and then it's not. They also have allowances and whatever. And as much as possible, I'm trying not to sound too caustic because I am an employer of labor. I own filling stations and I have staffs over 25. And thinking about it now, if we go on with this increase, I would have to increase the cost of my service as well. It also means that schools would have to increase the cost of their services. It also means that at the end of the day, God forbid us turn into Zimbabwe, where we probably be having millions of naira. So you want to buy something that is supposed to cost this thing, and because it has a ripple effect across the economy, and we have to think about inflation as well. It's possible to count this money, talk about these figures, but what is the effect of these figures on the average Nigerian when you want to service your car, for example, and you usually pay maybe fatai about 5,000 naira, and then because everything is on the high, you now have to pay fatai maybe 40,000 naira or something. There was a time when we used to buy sweet for 5 naira. Today, if you don't have 100 naira, you may not even be able to buy sweets. That is the effect of what? Inflation.
Some say that it could also mean that the NLC and TUC have little negotiating power and do not know. Probably, someone suggested, yesterday I was watching an analyst that they could do with, by hiring someone who could, do better negotiation with the federal government. And I'm wondering, could that be the reason why we're not making any headway?
Well, usually there's a thin line between activism and you can be an activist, but you have to be pragmatic with your activism. And I think that is a balance between experience. Economic knowledge is different from just solidarity. And of course, there's also a thin line between humanity, charity, and reasonability. So we need to understand that even though we think that all the politicians in the Nigerian government, they have so much money in their coffers, we have to be realistic. When you say budget, for example, let's use Ekiti State as an example. I'm not from Ekiti, but let's use Ekiti State as an example. Ekiti State employs about 1% of their citizens in the civil service. Let's just assume, and not concede, that we now agree to these bogus hundreds of thousands and what have you. With the budget, it will mean that states across Nigeria may have to dedicate about 90% of their budget paying salary.
I remember that I asked you this question about the buying of the subnationals when it started.
Yeah.
And just moving away from there, you mentioned something very interesting, and that is talking about the figures in terms of people who are employed. And the people who are employed directly by government are not up to even a third of people in the private sector.
Yes.
Now, getting the private sector to comply will be another issue. You can shut down government offices, but you can't. It will be difficult for you to, picket private institutions. Looking at them coming to the table, what were the things that they raised, and are we sure that this will cascade through the private sector?
They already gave their own thoughts before Monday. They communicated their acceptance of that 60,000 naira. They communicated their acceptance. Let's not also forget that it's not just medium and small scale employers alone. We also have Manufacturers Association of Nigeria within that committee. And of course, that in the private sector, it's about buying and selling, what pays me and what doesn't pay me. And that's why I was also talking about the implication of this. The implication of this bogus costing would also have a huge reflection on the cost of goods and services, because I am in business to make profit, and you want me to pay, for example, when we say this minimum wage in the private sector, I'm looking at it from the angle of level 1 to level 3, which is the cleaners, the security, and what have you. Okay, it's okay, 60,000 naira plus. It means that the guy with say 2-3 years experience, I'll probably be paying the person about 300 and something thousand naira. That means that I have to increase it. That means that my running cost has increased, where do I put that on? The services I'm delivering to you. So it means that if I was charging you about 10 naira before the increase, it will have to increase to probably 15, 20 naira across board. And that's why I went back to the issue of us buying sweet for 10 naira before, and now we now buy sweet for 100 naira.
So I need to take something else for my haircut this evening.
Most probably.
Let's quickly look at, because I just have someone said to me that's the appeal to organize labor by the federal government, and part of it reads that the minimum wage is not only for public sector workers, it will be binding on the private sector as well. Yeah. This reality must be factored into the negotiation. So it hasn't yet been factored. It's going to be factored into the negotiations. And second, and the other issue is that Labour's current proposal of 494,000 naira is an increase of 1.5%. 1,547% on the existing wage. Exactly. And it translates into a bill of 9.5 trillion naira for federal government alone. The fear now from government is such a wage bill could cripple the Nigerian economy by leading to massive job losses, especially in the private sector.
True. I agree with you. I remember when the subsidy was removed, I had to have a meeting with my team across our filling stations to say, what do you think is reasonable for us to pay? Because think about it, that then we're buying a truck of PMS for 8 million, and then it changed to about 20 million naira. And then it did not mean that the cost of running the station reduced. So we're still, it also meant that the cost of diesel increased. The cost of every other thing increased. At the end of the day, what happened? We have to start looking at ways to reduce manpower. Because the price increased, the running cost increased, but nothing is reducing. So that is a typical example of what might happen if we do not have a reasonable minimum wage. Jobs will be lost.
But even if we do a 60 plus, like you said earlier on, even at 30, some subnationals have not been able to pay. And then we go up 60 plus. We're still going to suffer similar consequences.
Well, that is where we now start looking at diversifying our economy. That is where we have to start looking at state governments not just on the handouts they get from federal government. That is how we start looking at alternative means. Today, even in the Minimum Wage Act, there are some exceptions. I think Section 3 sub 4 gave exception to some of the industries that are not bound by this minimum wage. And agriculture is one of it. Well, we may be looking far away from that, but I think it's a reality check for not just me and you, but for everyone, including NLC, to now look at productivity level. Of course, some people may not like it, but from Kwara, where I came from, for example, I think 2 years ago, there was some sort of biometric on civil servants, and you don't want to know the population of ghost workers we had in the civil service in Kwara State. So I think that while NLC is all out for the people, I think it's also time for the state government to now be more realistic with how they will be more productive and how the civil service will also be more productive. So it's not just enough to have this number of people in employment. We need to see results. I, for example, I'm even a fan of hourly wage.
You've really, given us insight into these negotiations and the path for the future in terms of government-labor relations and also what it will mean for government. Thank you very much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. That has been Good Morning Nigeria. Trust you enjoyed it. Do join us tomorrow for another edition. I'm Fisayo Ogunfuyi.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Atolosaka. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.